Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Rhea Ripley has had the worst start to the week, but in the midst of her losing her title, Jey Uso has spoken about his chemistry with the star. The star also talked about their team name. Earlier this week, Rhea Ripley faced Io Sky in a match to defend her Women's World Championship. Unfortunately, she became too occupied with Bianca Belair during the match, which distracted her. She ended up losing the title to Sakai and had a complete breakdown, talking about how it had been heartbreak after heartbreak for her. The WGS podcast caught up with Jey Uso recently. The star has been connected to Rhea Ripley, but has not teamed up. However, the star was happy to talk about his chemistry with Ripley and also spoke about their team name, mentioning that he only recently learned how to pronounce it. He also said he would be happy to work across from her, with her or by her, whatever it meant. He didn't say they would be teaming together in the future, but there seems to be at least one well-wisher Ripley has on WWE Raw, even after her issues with others and Damian Priest leaving to go on SmackDown. Currently, Ripley does not have too many allies on WWE Raw. She's no longer part of the Judgment Day. Her friendships with Bianca Belair and Io Sky have fallen apart recently. She also no longer has Damian Priest's support as the star is on another brand, although they remain friendly despite this. Jey Uso and her forming their team might help both of them, as they are currently facing challenging situations heading toward WrestleMania, with Ripley without her title and Uso facing Gunther. The arena was eerily quiet, the crowd's roars now distant echoes as the lights dimmed. In the center of the ring, Rhea Ripley stood alone, her championship belt, the symbol of dominance, strength, and unshakable resolve, no longer around her waist. The moment had come, and it had slipped away in a matter of seconds. The cold sweat clung to her skin as the final bell rang, signaling her defeat. She stared down at the mat, breathing heavy, her chest rising and falling with the weight of the loss. As the announcer's voice faded into the background, the image of Rhea Ripley standing in solitude after the match began to feel like something far more profound than just a champion losing her title. It was a woman confronting the reality of an impossible journey, a quiet unraveling of the walls she had built around herself. She was no longer the unstoppable force she had once been. Jey Uso entered, his gait steady and composed. His expression was unreadable, but beneath it there was something softer, something understanding. Jey wasn't just a man who had walked into the ring to offer a handshake or a few comforting words. No, Jey Uso had become one of the few people who truly understood the grueling path Ripley had walked, because he too had tasted the bitter fruit of loss and the trials of working towards something greater. Together, they had experienced the highs and the lows of being at the top of the game. Together, they had formed something that wasn't just a team, it was a partnership that transcended the business. "I know what you're feeling, Rhea," he said, his voice low but full of empathy. "It ain't easy losing something like that. It ain't easy being the one who was on top and now having to come to terms with, what's next?" Rhea's gaze remained fixed on the mat, her clenched fists shaking. The sting of defeat was fresh, and her pride fought against the reality of the situation. But Jey's presence, that calming steadiness, it did something to her. It brought her back, if only for a moment, to the time when she and Jey had worked together, when they had been a force, a team. "You know," Jey continued, his voice carrying a weight that only someone who had walked the same path could understand, "when we teamed up, it wasn't just about dominating the competition. It was about building something. We had chemistry, right? Like, you and me, we didn't need to say a word to know what the other was thinking. It was like, we were on the same wavelength." Rhea finally turned her head to meet his eyes, the flicker of recognition in her gaze. She knew exactly what he was talking about. The duo they had formed, the unexpected pairing that caught everyone off guard, had become something undeniable. They had a bond that was forged in the fire of battles and victories. They had been the team that no one saw coming, but once they were in the ring, there was no denying their chemistry. It wasn't just about physical prowess, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. They had been two parts of a whole. Jey's expression softened. "It wasn't just about the moves, Rhea. It was about trust. You trusted me, and I trusted you." There was no ego, no second guessing. It was like we could finish each other's sentences with every move, every tactic. We were unstoppable. Rhea nodded slowly, the weight of the loss still lingering, but there was a slight shift in her posture. She could hear it in Jay's words. It wasn't about just winning, it was about the connection. And she realized that even though the title was gone, what they had shared in the ring wasn't something that could be taken away. "Remember when we called ourselves the Righteous Uprising?" Jay asked with a slight grin, his eyes lighting up with the memory. That name, man, it was more than just a gimmick. It was who we were. We weren't the underdogs, but we were the rebellion. We stood for something. We weren't afraid to go against the grain. It was about breaking the mold, about fighting for something bigger than ourselves. A small smile tugged at the corner of Rhea's mouth, the first real sign of life after the match. "Yeah," she said softly. "I remember. The Righteous Uprising. We were like a revolution." "Exactly," Jay said, his voice carrying a deep, unwavering conviction. "And even if the titles are gone, that revolution doesn't die. It keeps moving, keeps growing. What we had wasn't just a flash in the pan. It was something that the people connected with. They believed in us. We believed in each other." For a brief moment, Rhea allowed herself to lean into his words. She'd been so focused on the loss, on the defeat, that she'd forgotten the essence of what made her and Jay such a formidable pair. It was more than the titles, more than the accolades. It was the bond they shared, a bond that was forged not just in the ring, but in the way they pushed each other to be better. Jay took a step back and gave her a moment to process. "You've done it all on your own, Rhea, but sometimes it's okay to lean on someone. We've been through it all together. The highs, the lows, the moments when it felt like the whole world was against us. But look at us now. Look at what we've built." Rhea inhaled deeply, finally letting the words sink in. She had spent so long building herself as a singular force, pushing herself to be the very best, that she had forgotten the strength in unity. The strength that came from having someone who truly understood her, not just her as a competitor, but as a person. Jay Uso had seen her at her best and her worst, and yet they had still stood together, stronger than ever. "You're right," she said quietly, her voice filled with a new sense of determination. "I didn't get here alone, and I don't have to keep going alone either." Jay smiled, his usual playful nature returning. "Hell no, you don't. And when the time's right, when you're ready, we'll rise again. Together." Rhea's eyes met his once more, and for the first time since the loss, she felt something she hadn't realized she needed: hope. The loss was a chapter in her story, not the end. She had been part of something powerful, something that had left a lasting impact. And now she was ready to rebuild, to rise once again, but this time she would do it alongside someone who truly understood her, someone who had shared in her battles. "The Righteous Uprising," Rhea murmured to herself, as if tasting the words once again. There was power in those words, in that name. It wasn't just a team, it was a legacy. "Let's do it," Rhea said, her voice steady, a spark of determination returning to her eyes. "Let's rise again." As the camera zoomed out, capturing the duo standing side by side, it was clear, the Righteous Uprising wasn't over. It had only just begun. And this time, they would rise together, stronger than ever before.